The voice of Husker Nation is on the air. This is Hail Varsity Radio. Insight, opinion, expertise, along with the biggest names talking Nebraska sports. Join in with the show at 402-489-1240 or 1-800-825-5865. Now, here are your hosts, Chris Schmidt and Elijah Herbel.
Welcome to it, Roadshow Thursday. It's Hail Varsity. We're powered by Cornhead Lager on the road today at the Single Barrel, 9th and P, inside the Graduate, our football headquarters this fall. I love it. I'm staring at the locked back wall of 200 whiskeys to choose from. It is not padlocked. There is not a Doberman keeping me out. Why would you be kept out? When you come to the Single Barrel, you're going to get a monster steak, you're going to get a whiskey you love, or a cold beer, and it's going to be a football party. Numbers to get in, 489-1240, 489-1240, 800-825-5865. Elijah back in studio. Elijah, I will have a whiskey for you until you get on down here. We've got so much college football tonight. It is awesome. So we invite you down to the Single Barrel. Going to be here Thursdays during the college football season. Home weeks for Nebraska. We'll be back here at 11:30 on Saturday with pregame. And then Real Red Reaction, of course, is what we'll be posting up here after Nebraska UTEP. So a lot to get into. Keeping with the hydration theme, it is a bit sticky and gross outside. What is your drink of choice when you pregame? Interested, can join in the stream, Hail Varsity YouTube, can tweet in at HVarsity Radio. Mr. Snitley has already chimed in, and I love it. It's an old-fashioned for Pudge, and yes, it is. And just incredible old-fashions here at the Single Barrel. We'll get to our starting five coming up. Brandon Vogel joins us as we'll check in with the Mr. Counter Reed. Brandon Vogel in about 15 minutes. In hour two, we will head to Boulder. We will get the lowdown on Prime, on the Buffs, on North Dakota State as that thing kicks off at 7 tonight on ESPN. What's Coach Barnett think? What's he think of Nebraska UTEP? What's he think of the Buffs v. the Bison? We'll hear from Barney at 5. Damon Benning going to be with us at 5:25. A chance to chat with Damon, and of course you hear him and Ravi on Hurrdat Sports Radio, 7 to 10 out of Omaha on AM 590, and of course hear him the last hour on KFOR Lincoln, all over the Hail Varsity Hurrdat Sports Network. Damon going to talk some ball with us, some thoughts on this game, Elijah, Saturday, and the bigger picture. We'll dive into some bigger picture. So back to what I asked about, what's your pregame drink? Clearly it's a Cornhead Lager. It's a beer for me if I'm going to have more than one. If I'm going to have a couple of drinks, it's going to be a beer. If I just have time for one, it is a Templeton Rye, water, ice. Your wheels are spinning because there are lots of choices for one Elijah Herbel.
Well, we do have the question. We'll get to the starting five here in just a second. But the question from Brett, he's asking over under 15.5 beers on Saturday. I'm working, so a firm under. And even
Elijah, welcome to the press box. Don't worry, that'll buff out of the carpet.
And even if I was going over, I wouldn't tell you. Sunday, though, is
you
the day.
Sunburnt or just beat red, Elijah?
Sunday's the day. It's both the LSU and USC game and my fantasy football draft. That's the day where we're looking at that 15.5 with, the eye emoji looking like to the left. It's like I get it. That's where we might be talking the over under 15.5. Though for a traditional pregame spot, what am I going to be drinking? I'm kind of with you. It depends on if I'm drinking one or if I'm drinking six. If I'm drinking one, give me a vodka Red Bull double Double shot.
A double. All right.
Yeah, get me geared up. Like, get me hyped up for the game. Like that makes the tunnel walk a lot more fun. All the pregame stuff a lot more fun. If I'm having 6, give me 6 vodka Red Bulls again. You know what? Let's have ourselves.
You're gonna go 6? That is that is blackout juice, my man.
No, I'm kidding. If I'm going 6,
one wedding, and never again.
If I'm going 6, I'm probably going
Red Bull vodka.
Start it off with the one red beer and then just settle into a nice couple of Busch Lights, and then maybe one mixed drink of some sort before you go into the game, just to kind of tide you through that first half.
Okay. No, I respect the rotation. The red beer is glorious with a lime. I foo-foo it up a little bit.
But
it's good.
There is a great point here.
It's good.
It depends on the morning or the afternoon or the evening. The time of the game matters, because as Great Red Shark here says, on morning games, I'm going Irish coffee. He says heavy on the I'm going heavy on the gym probably.
Okay.
But yeah, Irish coffee is an elite 11 a.m. kickoff pregame drink.
That is all well and good with your suggestions. So how do you hydrate and pregame it? And just we'll assume we're all experts at pacing ourselves ahead of kickoff, so you remember kickoff. But we invite you down here to the Single Barrel today, 4 to 6, Hail Varsity Roadshow, inside the Graduate 9th and P. Get a steak, get a beer, be a happy football person tonight. The sad news is you've got lightning in the area in Minneapolis, so Carolina, Minnesota pushed back an hour. Prime, though, in Colorado kickoff. I'm can't wait to watch that tonight. The starting 5, Danny Burke also going to be with us. We'll get some gambling thoughts from the Pride of Chicago before we wind down. So the other Dave is in. NASCAR Eric checks in second with our starting 5. You're welcome to be a part of the stream. Hail Varsity YouTube, like and subscribe there. Hail Varsity Radio Twitter. Dylan is in third. Cornhusker Cola, we are all bison today. He checks in fourth. The real Matthew is in. Jeff is here. Eat beef. Colorado is going to lose that line down to 9.5. Black Hills Brennan is in. Uncle Jimmy is here. Says, let's go, let's show, let's rodeo. Justin is here. Like that. Patrick Brent also in, along with Mr. Erickson. A-Dub checking in. Jeff Snitley, part of the Boulder Peace Treaty, is here. Arlo, good to have you. Larry is in. Crazy Spider Adventures checks in. I'm nervous like a kid on Christmas Eve. Bring it on. Jack is here, one day closer. James checks in. Hope Colorado loses tonight. Jacob wants the Bison over the Buffs. Walter is in from Philly. Run the bleeping ball down the Buffs' throat. Brian Snitley checks in, part of the Boulder Peace Treaty, and has a question regarding the Average Joe Sports Show on Sat and Rhule. And that leads us to one of the topics today. Where does it go right for Nebraska in 2024? Where does it go wrong? If we're just gonna put the glass of Kool-Aid down for a minute and just say, all right, there are fun expectations, there's joy, there's excitement, but you've been here before as a Nebraska fan, Elijah. We've been here before as guys that have covered the team for a long time, and it's been – last year wasn't miserable in the sense that Nebraska – I mean, the way it ended was miserable with so many close games if you're a Nebraska fan, where you were right there and you just got snuffed out in the final 2 minutes with most of November. But I think as a Nebraska fan, without making excuses, you looked at the situation they were in on offense, and you really truly know how good a defense you had with some inconsistent special teams. So it could have been all right. You would have liked the bowl game, but I think you can feel good about true progress this year. I don't know how big that progress looks, but I think you'll know it when you see it. Tuck is in. Let's get this show over with so we can watch Colorado get hammered at home. Do you want Colorado coming in 1-0 or 0-1? I want them coming in 1-0.
I want them coming in bruised and bloodied. If it's a win, if it's a loss, you know what? No skin off my back. You just want them bruised and bloodied, like that physical North Dakota State style. You want that to leave a mark in week one.
Yeah.
That's all I ask.
Let them know you're there.
That's all I ask for. If it's a win, if it's a loss, okay, you know what? If it's a win, you can say it's going to be even more hyped up next week. It's going to be more fun. If it's a loss, you can say, man, now you know they're gettable. You should be able to go and beat them. They're going to be down on themselves. Either way, it's a win for Nebraska, I think. So, let's just hope they're bruised and battered after they get done with the Bison.
I mean, when's the last time Colorado won? Because they lost out last year after starting out 3-0. Were they 3-1? Did they win in November or October? Did they beat anybody? They beat Arizona State. I mean, this could be stretching into a double-digit losing streak if they lose tonight and then lose to Nebraska. We will research that. Yeah. 3-putt is in, says Peace. Sal's checking in from Omaha, Grateful Red. 2 more sleeps, GBR. The other Elijah is in. Rule the Day checks in, aggressively average. The trees in Nebraska lean to the east because Iowa sucks, and Colorado, does worse. Brett is here, reporting over under 15.5 beers. You already put that one up, but it was worth mentioning again. Great Red Shark checks in, says hello, and references the primetime infomercials. Gerard says gents, or Jared. Gerard. Sorry, dude. Jared checks. Mr. Butler. Jared, good to have you. Thank you. King Justodian is here.
Hey,
along with Greg.
We need to get you in the Hail Varsity Radio spelling bee one of these years.
No, dude. I'm going to host it because clearly I can't spell, talk, or read. All right? I'm here for my hair. That's totally it. Got an email in from Todd, and as we've made our predictions, we did that last Saturday on the weekend edition, but Todd's asking a question here, and this is fair. Does your forecast get tweaked if Nebraska stumbles week 2, given all the buildup / hype around the Buffs game? Though you weren't high on USC, you think we lose to both. Thought you weren't high on USC. I'm not. I think we lose to both West Coasters, leaning towards 7-6 or 8-5, adding a bowl, obviously. So Todd's in for 7-6 or 8-5. That could happen, as we'll get into with Brandon Vogel. Where it goes right for Nebraska. And I think what we can define as right is a bowl win to get to 9 or more.
Sure.
Where it goes wrong is just limping into a bowl game or worse.
Well, where it goes wrong, and I'll put the hand up, I'll say it, we, on this show, in previous years, have overlooked some things coming into a season that by the time you get to the end of the season, you say, maybe we should have talked about that more during fall camp. And I'm trying to rack my brain for what those things are this year. I think
depth, talent, evaluation, tackling, turnovers.
I think Jeff Snitley brought up a big one that we haven't talked about much this offseason was the fact there are some games you can look at last year. Then you can look directly in the coaching staff and say the management at the end of this game did not give Nebraska the best chance to win. You look at Maryland and Wisconsin especially. Maryland, you left too much time on the clock. Wisconsin, following that loss to Maryland, you didn't leave yourself enough time on the clock to give yourself a chance to go and win.
You overcorrected.
I think you can go look at the Iowa game as well as being a game you didn't have great game management in. That could be a big one that I think we might look at the end of the season and say, man, Nebraska was this close to being a 9-3 football team, but alas, they're 7-5 because of late game decisions. That could be something I think we look at the end of the year and say, man, maybe we should have spent more time on that. I think the depth is a big one. I think we spent a little bit of time, though, specifically on the offensive line, talking about it is thin there. And you do know in the rough and tumble Big Ten, there is a low likelihood that your 5 starting offensive linemen will start all 12 regular season games for you. That's another one thing. Maybe you could say, hey, we could spend more time on it, but let's be honest. Thinking about what could go wrong isn't as fun as thinking about what could go right. And I think whenever I look at this team, there's a lot more that could go right as opposed to the things that could go wrong. One more to add, and we've spent a lot of time talking about it, so I don't think it'd be one of those things that surprises you, but mentality. Can they get that mentality shift late in close games? That's something you're not going to be able to quantify until you see it on the field. That's another thing that could go wrong for this team. But those are the 3 things I look at: depth, management, and mentality, which are all in their own way a little bit hard to quantify, hard to see for yourself early in the season. All things I think could go wrong, but there's so many things that could go right whenever you look at this roster.
Totally agree with you. We'll weigh in on that, where it goes right, where it goes wrong for the Big Red. It's fair. They are a quarterback or tackle injury away from getting from the season being kneecapped, possibly. Now, I think they have planned for some worst-case scenarios with how much they've ramped up and what they've brought in at quarterback and who they brought in to coach the quarterbacks. So I think they've planned for the depth. They've talked an awful lot about needing 3 quarterbacks. Brandon Vogel on the way with Hail Varsity here at the Single Barrel.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Back with you at Hail Varsity. We're powered by Cornhead Lager. We're on the road here at the Single Barrel, downtown Lincoln, inside the Graduate 9th and P, a must-visit for you tonight or any time during football season, as they have incredible steaks, pork chops, burgers. They are renowned for their steaks. They are second to none. They're incredible. Over 200 whiskeys to choose from. Plenty of beer to pick from. They have Guinness for Bill Dolman. I mean, it is glorious here at the Single Barrel. We're here weekends as well on Saturdays ahead of Nebraska and their home opponent. We're here Thursdays during home football weeks. We welcome in with Counter Read Brandon Vogel, counterread.com, where you can log on. We'll get to more stream questions. Gary Barnett from Boulder coming up in about 35 to 40 minutes. Vogues, it is here. Football is here. We had Ireland last weekend, a thriller to finish. A good slate, weather permitting, tonight, if we're talking Minnesota and North Carolina. But the focus is Saturday, 2:30, Nebraska, UTEP. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Don't forget Rutgers Howard.
Is Vogues muted?
I can hear him just fine, Schmidt. You can't, Vogel. Can you say hi to Schmidt real fast?
Hey, Chris. You forgot about
Vogues.
Rutgers. That's what I said.
Okay, that's right. Rutgers is ready to touch gloves. Who do they play tonight?
The mighty Howard Bison.
Ah, okay. So it's all bison all the time, brother. How are you leaning on bison meat? Are you a bison burger guy if it's on the menu?
If it's on the menu, if I'm at a place that only serves bison, I mean it's good. I prefer beef. I'm from Nebraska.
Yeah, I think there's a reason why beef became like the top choice for burgers, and it's not because it's like, just more available. It is just the best to use. Yeah. I think it's pretty simple there. Let's save the American bison. Let's not put them in burgers.
No, I had to ask. Is the bison endangering the buffalo tonight? I'm going to start there before we get to Nebraska, folks.
They might knock them around for a little bit. I'd be surprised, I think, if North Dakota State actually came away with a win. Like, I think Colorado, when you look at its explosiveness, like, unless it goes heavy in the turnovers, might be able to just put too many points up on the board. Though I do expect North Dakota State to kind of win the lines of scrimmage. So those are kind of the two parts there that I'll be looking for. with that North Dakota State Colorado game. I'm pretty excited to get eyes on that one, because not just because Nebraska plays them, but I think there's some interesting storylines there overall.
Well, it's also interesting because I think North Dakota State's game plan to win is the same as every Big Ten West team over the past 8 years, which is win on the lines of scrimmage, win the time of possession, win in special teams, and just limit how many times Colorado's offense is able to get the ball. Like, if Colorado's offense gets 4 or 5 possessions in this game, it really lends itself to being a potential North Dakota State victory, just because that offense is explosive, but that offense, as we saw last year, is prone to making mistakes.
Yep, I think that is the key. I think the key is absolutely when North Dakota State has the football. How much clock can they chew? Can they run the ball basically straight at Colorado? I mean, Colorado's got talent. Let's be clear there, and talent covers up a lot. But if they're able to control the clock, that's the path to victory for the Bison.
Brandon Vogel with his counterread, counterread.com. There is some nasty weather moving through the downtown here as we're in the Haymarket Single Barrow. The trees are rustling. There's some naughty-looking clouds off to the west, so I need to borrow a football helmet here. Vogues, where it could go right, where it could go wrong for Nebraska this season. When we talk about predictions, we were hovering around that 7, 8, 9 win total, a lot of us, and I settled in on 8 last Saturday. I know you put your predictions out as well with Counter Read, and Elijah made a money point last segment. Just there were things that we really didn't, and I'm just saying him and I didn't take into account going into last season. And a lot of it was quarterback. I thought quarterback was going to be okay. It clearly was not, especially with who they picked as starter and how those wheels fell off in big games, in tight games. It was just a turnover fest. Well, Harburg played his butt off and was limited with his development. I think that will continue to grow. So I think quarterback could go right this year beyond the Riola factor. Like, I think they could totally hit on a phenom. But if there is injury or there's inconsistency, I think they'll overcome that. But more so on the lines, I'm concerned. And as nice as the secondary is, you've got some young pups behind those grizzled vets. I think that's where a couple areas it could go wrong. What's your take on where it could go wrong or right for the Big Red? What are some key things you have circled?
Yeah, in terms of go wrong, I think I would look towards the secondary first. Not because they're not talented back there; they are. I mean, basically the starting secondary is in single digits, so that should tell us all something. But when you look at Nebraska, now they're ranked 22nd in explosive pass rate last year. Not bad, but compared to their other numbers, it was lower. Like, if we want to talk about best defense in the country, I think that number has to go up. So where things could go wrong is Nebraska could be just as tough against the run. It could be better in terms of pass rush. If it's still a little bit susceptible to explosive plays in the passing game, I think that is a potential Achilles heel. And when I look at the lines, this week's game is a good example. You've got a really good UTEP pass rusher in Maurice Westmoreland, and Nebraska basically has 2 tackles who have played football going into this game, and they're starting left and right. So that's that'll be interesting. And this was an offense last year that ranked 122nd in sack rate allowed, and they didn't throw the ball very much. So that's a potential could go wrong. Like, if that doesn't improve, like, Dylan Raiola is going to be better. The passing game is going to be better. Put that in what will go right category for me. But if he's facing a ton of pressure, it's probably not what it could be or should be.
Yeah, and Brandon, whenever you look at this, I think it's interesting. As you kind of laid out that answer, I was taking it through my head. We still haven't mentioned the factor of Raiola, the freshman quarterback, the true freshman quarterback, I should add. The factor as being something that could potentially go wrong, and I think it's because not only do I think a lot of Husker fans, myself included, see the arm talent, see the potential, see the upgrade that he already is, but you look back through the stats of what Nebraska's quarterbacks were last year, and you say, well, it already went wrong, and we're pretty confident they have an upgrade there because he beat out the incumbent guy from last year. So I think it's hard to put the true freshman quarterback into something that could go wrong because it already was at its worst last season, and Nebraska was 5-7, you know?
Yeah, I would agree with that. Apologies for sliding off screen. My 1-year-old unplugged my computer, and I got the notification I was about to lose power. Dylan Raiola will not be a limiting factor, I don't think, on Nebraska in 2024. That would be how I would put that.
That's a great.
He's under pressure a ton. That probably changes things. Like the ceiling maybe gets a little bit lower. Maybe the ceiling's just a little bit lower than where we all think it is right now because he is a true freshman. But for a lot of the reasons you mentioned, I still think that ceiling's pretty high. I think if Heinrich Haarberg was the starting quarterback for Nebraska all year, the passing game would be improved. So that kind of factors into that for me as well. And then you add in Dylan's obvious talent, which we haven't seen in games yet, of course. I feel pretty good that the passing game will be more than enough of a complement to a run game that had a lot of stick-to-itiveness last year, but still I think want to see more. You want to see that interplay between rush and pass for Nebraska to be firing on all cylinders.
Vogues, where do you place the kicking game in the right or wrong categories?
I mean, I think you got to put it in wrong for now. I mean, it's kind of become the storyline of the past 10 days as Nebraska's going into this opener with some uncertainty there. And, we know last year that in terms of a true, like a total field goal percentage, Nebraska was below average. That said, if we've got a full spectrum of like wrong to the left and all the way right to the right, I'd put kicking like on the wrong side, but not far from the middle.
Yeah,
I think they'll feed. What's that?
I don't know if
yeah, go ahead.
I don't know if I've ever heard of a 2 kicker setup being cause for confidence going into a season.
Yeah, I mean it's probably not. I mean, I think when you factor in Alvano coming back, like missing a little bit of early camp, I'm willing to kind of give that a little bit of wiggle room there. And we've seen some teams in the past have like their long distance guy, but even then, I think you'd rather be like, yeah, this is the guy. We put the guy out there who makes kicks, and it's him. So it's okay. I think Nebraska projects to whatever record you have, Matt. Probably projects to be in a handful of maybe not 1-score games, but 10-point games. Like that's kind of where a lot of the metrics put them. And kicking matters a lot when you're working with that small of a margin.
Brandon Vogel with us, counterread, counterread.com. Vogues, we're going to get some overtime with you here, just a touch, if that's good. We're up against it. We're here at the Single Barrel, downtown Lincoln, inside the Graduate 9th and P. You're invited down here till 6, and then, of course, 11:30 to 1:30 ahead of Nebraska and UTEP with the weekend edition. Tiger Shark Diver, my apologies, brother. No need to go rogue. Here is your shout-out. Brad is in. Jared thought that me going Gerard was funny. Thank you for the grace there. James is in. So if James asked the question, so if Ralphie is a Bison, is he a North Dakota State fan? We'll ask Barney about this, but Ralphie is actually from Chadron, I believe, or on loan from Chadron.
That traitor.
It's NIL, baby.
Sleeper agent.
More with Brandon Vogel with Counter Read. Some thoughts on the Big Red. Hail Varsity continues, powered by Cornhead Lager.
Hail Varsity Radio is live. Now, back to Schmitty.
Schmitty's a great guy, but he don't have a brain.
And Elijah.
You want me to speak? When I point at you, yeah.
On Hail Varsity Radio.
Back with you, it's Hail Varsity, powered by Cornhead Lager. We're here on the road, Thursday College Football Road Show, here at the Single Barrel, inside the Graduate 9th and P downtown Lincoln. Brandon Vogel continues on with us from counter read. We'll get to more of your thoughts and comments here in the stream. Hail Varsity YouTube. Like and subscribe to it. Vogues, as we shift to Saturday for Nebraska, the running back question still unanswered for Nebraska, although we'll hear from Rhule in a little bit more of an answer with who he felt good about on third down, and that's Emmett and Ramir, Johnson and Johnson. But where are you at with Nebraska's running game and options? Do you think it's something that'll get better and get figured out before Big Ten play, or is this just going to be a feel per game as Nebraska's going to continue to try and sort it out? The rotation was a bit messy last year.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with starting the season with 4 guys you think you can play and letting that play itself out for a while. Sort of similar to what I said about Dylan Raiola. When I look at the running back room, it's a good room. There's some talent there. It's just you don't have like the proven guy, so you're lacking that. But I don't look at that for now. Let's see what we see in the games ahead. I don't look at that as a potential limiting factor for Nebraska either, which I think underscores the larger point for me. For Nebraska to get to where it wants to go this year, like it needs the run and pass to operate in concert. You can't I don't think Nebraska has the season that a lot of people think they could have this year if, the passing game gets a lot better, but the run game regresses. And I don't think, based on, having 4 backs that are relatively equal, at least going into the opener, that necessarily proves, I know you weren't saying this, Schmitty, but necessarily proves that it's going to be an issue. It's kind of a wait and see for me, I guess, similar to Matt Rhule.
Brandon Vogel's with us. Here's some overtime on Hail Varsity Radio. Check out his work, counterread.com. And Brandon, the elephant in the room is turnovers. At what point will you be, what will you need to see in order to show you that turnovers will not be an issue for this team this year? Is that something that can be proven in the first couple weeks of the season?
Nebraska's history with it has been so rough of late that if they were, +3 or even after 3 games, I think that would be a very encouraging sign. That'd be the quarter pole. I think the offense, we've heard all the quotes about working on ball security, et cetera. Like, turnovers are a lot about, if you're going to run the quarterback less, that should help. Like, fumbles are just going to happen when they happen, but quarterbacks who run the ball a lot, which has been Nebraska for a lot of the past decade, tend to fumble more. The other piece of it is just making good decisions in the passing game, but also getting out to a lead. Like, interceptions go up when teams are behind. So if Nebraska can avoid that with some increased prowess in the passing game, I think they've got a good shot to at least not – we won't be here at the end of the year being like, oh, they should have been 9-3, but they were -12 again. That said, turnovers are tough to predict.
Vogues, what's happening with Counter Read? How can folks get connected with you and Aaron Sorensen this college football and volleyball season, bud?
Yeah, just head over to counterread.com. It's twice weekly Substack from myself and Aaron Sorensen. We've had a good week in terms of seeing some new people, some new subscribers come over. I think with the excitement of volleyball and football season arriving, which is amazing. We're continuing to grow that community. So I'll have my big UTEP game preview coming first thing tomorrow morning. And then Saturday, Aaron and I kind of collaborate. Aaron does most of it, but I jump in there with some picks for our Saturday game guide. So you'll want to make sure to catch that. And if you haven't been a subscriber before, you can head to counterread.com. All free subscriptions for up through Sunday come with a 30-day free trial instead of the 7. So get a little bit longer to check us out. Takes you about a quarter of the way through football season if you just choose that option.
Vogues, I can't wait. We'll connect again for the weekend edition on Saturday. Appreciate you taking time and doing some OT.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
All right, there he is, Brandon Vogel, with us here from CounterRead, counterread.com. We'll get back to some of your pregame drinks of choice. Gambino's Pizza, our friends in Kearney chiming in. Good to have you fellas. Brent says bison steaks are awesome. Yes, they are, but the filet here is incredible. The New York strip is money at the single barrel. The ribeye, Elijah, is it's undefeated. It's undefeated. Tiger Shark wants to see hype about this Rutgers team. They will destroy tonight in a good way. Andy wants us to do a show once a month from a boat when we're drinking. We didn't overdo it. We maybe had a beer.
I had zero, unfortunately. But next time.
You're going to fold under questioning here on the witness stand, Elijah.
No, you
would have thrown me under the bus.
You were a witness.
I had water.
You can attain. I had a lemonade too. It was tasty.
Pretty good.
Do you want to quickly get into Matt Rhule's comments? We talked. We had on it with Brandon Vogel. Matt Rhule kind of discussed today that 2-kicker system. I think it's kind of big. You want to get into that really fast before we take a break?
Yeah, we will hear Rhule on the kicker situation here with Nebraska.
I think we have a unique kind of a thing. I think like John would kick some, maybe a little further out. Tristan maybe would kick something closer. We kicked today, so that could still change based upon today's results. That's Ed's decision. That's not one that I get. I mean, I get involved in everything. Obviously, I'm a control freak, but I do trust the coaches to make those types of decisions. And so Ed and Josh are charting everything. So I could see you seeing both of those guys kick, and I think you'll see John kick off.
Well, there you go. Now, 2 thoughts on this. One, okay, and it's not breaking news that some programs have a guy that can kick from distance and a guy that might be a little bit more accurate, 40 or closer. But ideally, Elijah, you want one guy that can do both. Right now, you have one guy that's coming off injury.
The one
after
thing,
struggling,
and the big thing I worry about with the 2-kicker system, and I laid it out with Brandon, it usually isn't like cause for or reason for confidence going into a season. Like, oh yeah, we got the 2-kicker system. I kind of see it like quarterbacks, where like if you have a guy that comes in consistently from the kicker spot, like to do the long kick, it's not a confidence instilling thing to do to your kicker. To say, hey man, we're gonna take you off the field. Because the guy, he can kick it a little bit further than I don't know. It doesn't strike me as being something that's going to be good for the kicker's psyche, and kicker is a spot that the psyche is so important.
It's absolutely important, and they got to make it. They got a job to do. We'll wind down hour 1.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Back here at Hail Varsity, we're powered by Cornhead Lager, Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel. We appreciate you hanging out with us in the stream Hail Varsity, YouTube Hail Varsity Radio, Twitter, both ways to watch and subscribe to the show. And check us out via video, Hail Varsity Radio Network. All good. We love you catching us however you do it. Want to shout out our friends joining us this football season, Neiman and Sons. Family-owned business established in 1981. Be sure to stop by and see your friends Trevor and Travis and the crew. Incredible family. A family-run company specializing in roofing and siding and gutters, and a strong commitment to customer satisfaction, an incredible commitment to community. Neiman's are so big into youth football. It's wonderful, all the work they've done over the years on the youth football front. And they are trusted professionals. They're fully licensed, accredited. Neiman & Sons have built a solid reputation through quality service and customer trust. And that service is comprehensive with Neiman & Sons, a wide range of residential and commercial exterior services. That includes roofing, siding, gutters, and custom exterior lighting. You don't want to jack with Christmas lights or just spruce up the front of the house. it's an option. Give Neiman & Sons a call today at 402-423-4853 or log on, NeimanandSons.com. We'll get to some more steak talk, Elijah. Tim is a ribeye fan. That's big. I am just trying to decide what steak to fire up here at the Single Barrel as we're on the road here for this Thursday and home football Thursdays.
They have that phenomenal pork ribeye out there. It's like
It's
like the center cut pork chop.
Mm-hmm.
I think if I remember correctly, it's the PB&J where it's got like the peanut butter sauce or something.
Yes.
Yeah. Very, very tasty.
It is good. Let's sneak in a little bit more from Rhule. Coach Rhule spoke earlier today, and the running back situation, you're still getting things figured out at kicker. Can you get things figured out at running back? They're all going to see the ball on Saturday.
I just want them to play well. Yeah, I think sometimes some of you guys, and it's okay. I think sometimes our players don't believe what I say, but I want the tape to look the way it's supposed to look. I want to
just the running backs
play hard, play physical. I want to have clean football. I want to protect the football. I want to be aggressive. I want to block their pressures. They're an excellent defense, excellent pressure unit. Recognize their fronts. Dylan will have a challenge, and the other quarterbacks will have a challenge in recognizing their coverage structures. They'll check when we check. They're a really well put together team. So I want us to play well. That's all I care about, and I want that for our whole team.
So that's Rhule. Expectations on the offense. Do we know where the running back comment is? No? Hell no, we don't. Okay. So, long and short, the quick spiel is they all are going to play. They're all going to play in the first half, and they need to get it figured out. Sound okay? Yeah, sounds good.
I know that's somewhere in one of the cuts I sent you, but what did I title them? That's a mystery to me.
Gary Barnett, what is the mystery for Coach Prime and Colorado? They get things kicked off at 7 against North Dakota State. We'll head to Boulder and check in with Barney on tonight's game. Damon Benning this next hour as well on Hail Varsity. We're here at the Single Barrel.
The voice of Husker Nation is on the air. This is Hail Varsity Radio. Insight, opinion, expertise, along with the biggest names talking Nebraska sports. Join in with the show at 402-489-1240 or 1-800-825-5865. Now, here are your hosts, Chris Schmidt and Elijah Herbel.
Back into it, it's Hour 2. It's Hail Varsity. We're powered by Cornhead Lager on the road here at the Single Barrel inside the Graduate. Getting ready for college football tonight. The Buffs get rolling against North Dakota State. Big Red and UTEP this weekend. Hall of Fame coach Gary Barnett with us. Coach, you ready? You ready for game day?
Chris, I've got about 12 hours. I mean, I got some time here. No, I'm working at it, man. I got some names I got to learn to pronounce. I'm pretty much ready. I've been to a lot of practices and gathered all my info. I always over-prepare and end up using 1/3 of what I do. I think the city's ready. I think the school's ready, Dion. I think everybody's ready to start college football in Boulder.
A lot of eyeballs are paired on it here in Nebraska, no doubt. I was listening to Feinbaum in his excerpt with Sean Keeler yesterday. Coach Barnett, how much of a distraction has there been, in your opinion, this week leading up to tonight?
I don't think there's really been any. I think Dion's taken it all, and I think Dion's way is to create a us versus them mentality. All this does is add a little gasoline to the fire and make it a little brighter. And so I think he does it for his players a little bit. And he's always done that. It's just his lightning rod mentality, I think, allows this sort of stuff to happen. I didn't see Feinbaum's interview, but I, of course, know Sean and read his stuff a little bit, especially during the season. And he's got a job to do, and he's sort of got the personality to do this job. And, he can grate on you a little bit if especially Deion wants nothing but positive things being said, and Sean isn't going to say that. Therein lies the problem and the rift. I find it strange, hard to believe really that the university would allow not to take questions from him. That's maybe the tail wagging the dog there, but it is what it is.
Did you ever go into a week or a game worrying about media?
No.
I didn't think you did.
No, I didn't. They had their job, I had my job, and I could use some of the things they would say occasionally. I would always do that. They weren't being said meanly or in a mean manner. They were just what someone saw in their opinion and maybe stated facts. And you don't like to see facts sometimes that you're involved in being printed out there, and so that always rubs you wrong, but you can use it. And I don't think really Deion is worried about it too much either. He's got so many irons in the fire that this is just a little pimple for him.
Gary Barnett with us, Hail Varsity Radio. Let's talk about the matchup tonight. What wows you about North Dakota State? The Buffs are a heavy betting favorite tonight. This thing going to be uncomfortable. What do you think of the showdown?
Yeah, I think it might be a little uncomfortable early. The showdown is that this is a real physical team we're going to play. They play two quarterbacks. This kid started 38 consecutive games as a running quarterback. That's incredible. And they're ranked second in the FCS. They just had an incredible record, and they have an incredible culture. And in some ways, it's going to be a clash of cultures. It may not be a fair class of cultures, but it is going to be a class of cultures because, just little things like when I do the numbers for the teams, on my board, all but about 5 kids have double-digit numbers. Now, that doesn't seem like a big thing to anybody else, but in today's world with all the hype and the attention that players get, they all want a single digit. And so you have to have 40 single digit numbers, and they all want the same number. But up there, you know what? I'll take 55. You can give me 66. I'll take 74. And so that jumped out at me right away. So you got a pretty unselfish team that doesn't draw attention to itself. It just steps on the field, hits you in the mouth, and then you better respond. And I think that's the kind of game you're going to see. Now, they have a new coaching staff, a new head coach, and that always complicates things. One, it complicates things for your defensive coaches trying to figure out what they're going to do. The head coach is from Wyoming, and he had been there for years. So there's not much has really changed, but it is a different philosophy. And so playing against his offense will be a little bit different, and you're not sure what you're going to see on defense. They probably have a pretty good idea, but you're not sure. Mm-hmm. So you're going to have to make adjustments during the game as coaches. So I think the combination of not knowing much about them because they're new, but at the same time knowing that you're going to get a real physical football game to start off with is probably what's going to highlight this game. I think the skill numbers, the skill set, skill in the secondary for Colorado and on offense is at a much higher level than that of North Dakota State. I think between the tackles, it's going to be a war.
I think you're right on. Ultimately, you wonder what wins out this early in the year, the brute force / trauma or the speed and athleticism. I want to ask you one more question about tonight with North Dakota State. Colorado kicks off at 7. Coach Barnett with us, Hail Varsity Radio. I'm interested in the Warren Sapp addition. Is he able to connect with guys that really need to be terminators? I mean, that interior on the line, how's he been?
One of the things that Deion sells here is that you're going to be coached by pros and that everybody wants to go into the NFL. And so I think Warren, just who he is and who he's been is an attractive item as a coach. I think that through the season, we'll see how that bears out. Can he make adjustments? Can he be part of the adjustments? Is he going to be just a guy that yells at you? Sometimes great players are not good coaches because they do things instinctually, and they're not sure how they did it or why they did it. And it's hard for them to teach others how to do that. They can be an example, but to go through the step-by-step things, the individual things that you have to do in order to get better, the little things, I think we'll have to wait and see how that works out, if he can do that. I think the kids have really taken to him, and I think they've taken to his image, and he's very enthusiastic. He enjoys being at practice. I have not had discussions with him, but he's a ball of energy, I can tell you that.
Gary Barnett with us, Hail Varsity Radio. Coach, what do you think of Nebraska UTEP? Dylan Raiola gets the start. You touched on how you would treat the situation. Freshman quarterback, you go full bore in. That is Nebraska's intention. What do you think's a good day for Nebraska? Yes, the win, but does it need to look or play a certain way?
Well, I don't think they need to play a certain way. I think they just to go out and get his feet wet. You're a 22.5 favorite. That helps him a lot. You're playing against, you got a better team going in there than what they have. So now you just got to do the stuff, and I think you got to be simple enough to where you'll just let him cut loose. You don't want him thinking in this game. And so, really, when I looked at the Nebraska schedule, you only have 5 away games, and, your first 4, because you don't know what you're going to get with Colorado, but you're up until Ohio State, you don't really get challenged very much. And that's, 7 games in. So it's a pretty good setup for a young quarterback.
And that's just it. Can Nebraska build momentum? This is the first time in 5 years, Coach Barnett, Nebraska's got a home opener. There's so much excitement here to see Raiola and get the season kicked off on Saturday. Coach, I want to circle back before we get some rapid-fire picks. How big is tonight for Prime and kind of the temperature around him when it comes to the support in Boulder? Are folks nervous about tonight, and what happens if they don't get it done?
Chris, there's been it's funny. It had, I'd say a year ago, we had 98% of the folks in Boulder just almost rabid over the enthusiasm for Coach Sanders and everything that he's done. I think, as in any case, when you don't win right away, you're going to lose a certain percentage. I'd say right now you're looking at probably a 60-40. 60% of the people are still 100% in, and the other 40 have become a little skeptical. There's probably 10% or 10% that really don't approve of everything he does. But most of those folks are older, and we're sort of, the whole college football scene is changed so much that we don't understand it and we don't like it. And so I think we're going to have that no matter what. But I think he's still got a lot of support. He's got a lot of support, I think, from the university. They must be supporting him because he's hiring everybody in the country, and we have a lot of people working here. And, when you can stand up and say, I'm not taking questions from the major newspaper in the state, then you must have a lot of support inside the university as well. So it's everybody's eager, though. They're really eager to get this game started, I think, this season.
Can't wait for kickoff here coming up with the Buffs in North Dakota State. Do you know Ralphie's actually from Chadron?
No, is that right? Well, I'll anybody from Chadron, I'll tell Ralphie that she says hi, or they say hi.
It's the Bison versus the Buffs, and Ralphie's from Chadron. So I had relatives that direction, but it's been a while. I almost got a speeding ticket in Chadron. But we're going to talk some college football picks here, Coach. Clemson, Georgia. This is Saturday, and them Bulldogs minus 13.5. What another big-time opener between SEC and Clemson.
Yeah, and I think Georgia's hitting on all cylinders. I think that's about right. I think they win by a little bit more than that, but I think Clemson still, they're not quite up and running like everybody else is right now, and I think that's probably because Dabo's been pretty stubborn about making some changes, and I don't blame him. By the way, I would be in his shoes as well. But I think that Georgia's just that much better, and I think the quarterback, even though he used a lot of his money to buy a $300,000 Lamborghini, he's still a really good player, and he's playing with power.
Would you have bought a Lamborghini, or would you have got a different route with the sports car budget?
I don't know if I'm going to disclose that right now. Okay. I'm not sure what I would. Depends on where I live. If I lived in Georgia, I probably would have bought a truck.
Okay.
But whatever.
West Virginia and Penn State. A lot of eyeballs on Franklin and the Nittany Lions this year with the expanded playoff. Penn State -8. West Virginia. Coach Brown's done a heck of a job at West Virginia after a little bit of heat. And, you've been out to Morgantown before. What do you think of this matchup?
Well, one, I love going to Morgantown, and I love seeing people come in trying to play at Morgantown. Penn State, Coach Franklin's got much of the same issue that Coach Sanders does, is that everybody was really fired up when he first got there, and now, he's yet to make a step in the big step that they need to take. And so, I think it's so hard to play out there. Penn State's probably going to win the game, but I think West Virginia and the number and the 8 points has a real chance of holding up against the Nittany Lions.
Notre Dame, A&M, that's -3. Texas A&M at home.
I know, but it's just -3. That means they have the home field advantage. Mm-hmm. And then after that, it's toe-to-toe. I love this quarterback that Notre Dame got from Duke. Yeah, and so I just got to think Notre Dame's going to win this game. I'm probably rooting for A&M, but I think Notre Dame wins it.
Well, I haven't polled Nebraska fans on with Trev in his first game in Aggieland. SC LSU in Vegas -4. Bayou Bengals. What do you think?
Oh, I think LSU wins this game. They're 4.5-point favorites. I think this could be a heck of a game. I'm eager to see the USC quarterback play in this game after he played last year and the one that he started. He played really well. LSU's got athletes all over the place, as does SC, but I like LSU.
Gary Barnett with us, Hail Varsity Radio. Coach, in a week, we'll be welcoming you and the Buffs to Lincoln. Can't wait for it, and we'll check in next week. Thanks for the time. Have a good call tonight.
All right. Appreciate it, Chris. Great being with you.
Good to spend time with Coach Barnett as he is on the call tonight. Colorado, North Dakota State. We're here at the Single Barrel inside the Graduate, 9th and P. Thursdays here. We are posted up for Nebraska home football weeks as typical. Good to be here at the Single Barrel. We're back here Saturday, 11:30 to 1:30 for pregame. It still is nasty off to the north and some stuff off to the west, so some severe weather coming through the region here in downtown Lincoln. I know that soccer has been postponed, UNL soccer, the Husker women, so that's tough. They'll get that figured out. Tiger Shark is asking where my drink is. I'm doing water tonight. Walter says the LSU O-line is tremendous. Rutgers just got a pick 6, which is good stuff. Colorado gets rolling in about an hour and a half.
And some high school updates, Schmidt West Side and Omaha North has been postponed due to lightning. West Side up 9-0 at half. The game at Seacrest, I believe that's is that Elkhorn North and North Star? Is that the game?
Yes.
That has also been postponed to tomorrow. So a couple of high school postponements coming as we kick off football season as well.
Well, and a man on the sidelines for West Side, Damon Benning. You hear him on the Husker Network. You hear him with Hurrdat Sports in the morning. We'll talk with Damon Benning next. Get his thoughts on the Big Red. It's Hail Varsity, powered by Cornhead Lager.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Back with you, it's Hail Varsity. We're powered by Cornhead Lager on the road here at the Single Barrel. Inside the Graduate, our post-up spot, Thursdays for college football. Damon Benning, part of Nebraska football for so many years and part of the network, of course. He's gearing up for Saturday. DB, thanks for the time, man. How we feeling?
No, we're good, man. Ready for game week. Talking season is officially over. I always kind of hate saying that too, because we're in the talk business, and I am thankful, you guys, because it just seemed like there was never really a lull, whether it was a coaching hire, a coaching change, a chasing 3 trailer to talk about. Like, it just seemed like the offseason stayed pretty busy.
It was a busy offseason for sure, but it wasn't a toxic offseason. I mean, there was always some pretty good storylines, and Damon, that anticipation continues to build for Saturday, and we get to finally see all the work, right, put on display. Just
I think it's probably the most exciting time of the year, right? You're wide-eyed, you're optimistic, you're watching every play to see if you're confirming or denying what you've heard all off season, and there's this kind of this football euphoria, man. I'm just excited to actually see these guys get a chance to put the fruits of their labor actually to work against an opponent, man, and they're in a good headspace too. So I'm super excited.
For the fans out there, Damon, I feel like once you get to this point in the week, like the week starts dragging on, it's that mix of nervousness and excitement that like makes the days really drag as you await kickoff. Is it a similar feeling within the team during this time?
Yeah, it really is. And you have to really buckle down. That's a great question, because I think part of the challenge is for coaching staffs when you get to this point is to stay dialed. It's such an important time, right? I get it. The bulk of the hay is in the barn, but now you're fine tuning, right? You're revisiting, third down scenarios, kind of what blitz packages you may see to sharpen up your communication on like personnel packages, to go over the headset communications a couple of more times with crowd noise. And so it's more fine tuning. And sometimes at that age, it's like, I feel like we've been here, we've done this. But as a coaching staff, I'm just telling you, you want them to feel bored with the tactical stuff. If it's protocol and know how, you're like, please be bored, please be bored, please be bored. Don't come across as though this is the first time you're hearing it. So the players kind of have to understand that this part, this tail end part, is part of it. Because now you're talking about rest, hydration, all the stuff you kind of want to side-eye roll, but is extra important.
Damon Benning with us, Hail Varsity Radio. Of course, here Damon and Ravi, Omaha, Lincoln, and the part of the Hurrdat Network, 7 to 10 weekday mornings. Damon, I'm interested here in this mix. You got veteran leadership. You've got youth that is exciting. Will this veteran leadership be the difference for Nebraska 2024? Is that going to be one of those things that maybe separates this Nebraska football team from past teams, but also from other teams in college football?
Yeah, I think especially on defense first. So I'll start there. And, you heard Coach Rhule say a handful of times here over the last month, he sometimes feels like he's talking to two teams. And you and I, Schmidt and Elijah, we talked in Indy about how he kind of flipped the roster without really flipping it, right? It was amazing how he changed it overnight, but a lot of the core is the core. Those are the kinds of things he's talking about. And I think it's really, really interesting. There's a couple of these older guys, a Ty Robinson, a Tommy Hill, and Isaac Gifford, where I want to really watch close to see, and maybe not so much for gift, but it's a lot easier to spell the man than to be the man. And now when you're in a leadership role, and it's all the time for T. Hill, right? You're not playing opposite Newsome, who was just re-signed by the Broncos to their practice squad, right? Obviously a really good player. Like, now it's on you. And it's a different kind of role than Tommy Hill has had, than Ty Robinson has had in the past. So all eyes are kind of on the veteran guy. I mean, look at the black shirts. I mean, that is a veteran, senior laden bunch. I absolutely think they're the key. And then you flip it around on offense, and you're like, okay, Mazuka's played a ton of games. We bring back an offensive line that's got over 130 starts from an experience standpoint. Yet we got this young guy as the signal caller. That leadership blend is going to be paramount when he commands the huddle. The Fedonis, the Jamal Banks, the Nayors got to be kind of leaders for, Lloyd and Barney and some of these young wide receivers. So I think that's absolutely a key, and it's one that you may not be able to see right away, but you'll definitely hear about it and feel it too as you're kind of evaluating this season.
Damon, does leadership need to change as you flip from the grind of off season into football season? The mentality within the team has got to change. Does that change how leaders need to operate on a day-to-day basis?
I think it becomes more about modeled behavior, right? It's not so much what I say once the bullet starts flying. It's more about what I do, right? Or what I don't say in crunch time, or even – listen, last 4 or 5 minutes of a game, it gets to be kind of hectic. What's my composure look like? Not necessarily what am I saying, but how am I playing? Right? How's my body language? Those things absolutely matter. And I'll be curious. Listen, I'm not advocating, a one-score game against UTEP. But I do think in this offseason, the real litmus test will be how Nebraska handles sticky situations, right? If UTEP, they get out to an early 7-0 lead, or there's a scoop score or something like that, like Nebraska's resolve. Because I just get the sense with this team, kind of the way the roster's built, I don't think we'll be talking about the physical limitations near as much. I think this will be about how Nebraska responds emotionally. And as you've kind of heard Coach Rhule talk about all offseason, he's more approached this from the between the ears bit, outside of asking Coach Campbell for a tough team, than he has their physicality. I think he likes the way they train. I think he likes the way that they work. I think he likes their work capacity. I think he's curious to see what happens with a little adversity, because he talks about dealing with it all the time.
Nebraska is well aware of the adversity, the tight moments. We grin and laugh about the pucker factor, but it's real. This team just has got to go do it. I mean, and you want to be at a spot, Damon, where it happens, you get on the right side of it, and then you're ready for that next moment, because you're going to have a lot of close ball games even with this schedule. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, and what have we heard him talk about in a variety of ways, but arriving at the same point. Hey, we're not going to call plays for Dylan like he's a freshman. This offense may not be what it's going to be because we're going to come out and be aggressive and not be afraid. Hey, we're going to play Harburg in multiple spots, even though he's our number 2 quarterback, because we're not going to be afraid. We're like, everything that they talk about is laying it on the line. He's had the gym the other day. Hey, listen, this offense may get off to a little bit of a slow start, but we're not going to blink as a staff. We're going to stay. They're going to stay with it. We're going to come out guns a-blazing. We're going to fine-tune as we go. So he's speaking exactly what you're talking about, as though he wants his team to be prepared for when it actually hits. And I think you're spot on. There are definitely going to be those moments. You just are with a young quarterback, and you're still trying to figure out your running back rotation. You have some young wide receivers in spots. I mean, these times are just going to happen. So you might as well get your mind right and prepare for it as best you can ahead of time for when opportunity really presents itself.
Damon, before we get you out and before we maybe get a quick thought on that Colorado-North Dakota State game that's coming up a little bit later tonight, I do want to get your thoughts on the running back rotation as we look at the beginning of the season. You're a guy who has been in that room. How tough is it, do you think, for running backs to go into a season saying, hey, yeah, I'm going to get some carries, but so is this guy and this guy and this guy? It's hard to get into a rhythm whenever you're doing a running back by rotation. What's your take on how that's going to go to start the season?
Spot on. And it has to start in practice with communication. You have to have a coach that's saying, hey, listen, this is my philosophy. We want to play 3 guys, or, hey, we're all vying for this. Okay, so you got to set that expectation level. Then as you're receiving the information, it can't be about how it fits your personality. It has to be about doing what's asked. It's not always easy to be ready on demand. Guys need some time. They need a little warm up. They need like, hey, can you let me know? It's very hard to train to be on standby. So you have to practice it. Then the mind part of it is what comes next. You're right. I have familiarity with being a guy that had to be ready on demand, and it's hard to stay ready. But what happens is once you get it, you're kind of always like that. It's like I always joke with people, I'd rather be caught with than without. Well, where'd that mentality come from? It came from college, right? Because you just never knew. And the quicker that the guys can adjust to, hey, this may not be my series. This may not even be my week, but I need to stay ready and play the long haul. The quicker you'll have success. But the cool thing for these guys this season, Elijah, is they're actually using a game as like a test run. Right? Like they're using UTEP to see what shakes out going forward. So if I'm in that running back room and it's been talked about that I'll have an opportunity to show what I got, chances are you better figure out a way to maximize in the moment because it's real life audition here.
Damon Benning with us, Hail Varsity Radio, part of the Husker Network. You'll hear him on the call with Greg Sharp. Can't wait for that. How uncomfortable is Boulder going to be tonight around midnight?
Yeah, I hope it's extremely uncomfortable, right? I'm not one of those guys that I couldn't care less if Colorado comes into Lincoln 0-1 or 1-0 and whatever Nebraska's psyche is. I want them as miserable as possible. And listen, I'm Team Cole Payton. I'm Team Sharmar Brown. I'm biasing all the way, man. I hope they're extremely uncomfortable, and I think it'll be a tight one.
You have a really fun ball game tonight, West Side and North. Put your headset on, the other headset, the coaching headset. What a year for Metro Ball again.
Yeah, it's going to be incredible, right? And I love our opener because we get to start out with a team that's extremely physical and going to kind of play a 3D style where they come right at you. And won't be a lot of trickeration and cutesy stuff going on tonight with the Vikings. So we get to see a lot of great players and led by like Tyson Terry. And so, you're going to be the defending champs and you don't want a slow start to the season. Just open up with the number 3 ranked team in the state in Omaha North.
Well, good luck to you, Damon, and we'll see you on Saturday. Thanks for a few minutes.
I appreciate it, guys. Have a great rest of the show.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Good stuff from Damon and Coach Barnett, winding down a Thursday road show here at the Single Barrel inside the Graduate 9th and P, where we're at Thursdays, your college football road show. And excited to be back here on Saturday for pregame 11:30 to 1:30 with the weekend edition. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel. We welcome in Danny Burke, Burke's Best Bets, burksbeat.com. And Danny, a full slate of college football, weather permitting. Not sure how much we're going to get done in Minneapolis. That's been pushed back, but let's just dive right in. North Dakota State, Colorado, a lot of money on the Buffs. That number's at 9.5. Are you fishing at all?
Man, I wanted to get involved in this game. I really did. And honestly, I see the argument for going against Colorado based on all of the reservations that we have. And maybe I'm speaking anecdotally, but just the issues potentially that are going to loom around this program this year, losing a lot of players and having a lot of pressure there and maybe distractions, whatever you want to call it. So especially in that first week, I'm not incredibly tempted to look the direction of Colorado, but at the same time, they do have the talented quarterback here, and they just have overall better pieces as opposed to the competition in this first game. So I'm not going to end up betting this one. I don't think. Probably going to look at it from an in-game perspective, if I'm being honest. But, maybe I could see a little bit more justification for going with Colorado if you're under that double-digit mark. Again, haven't done anything there. You guys know I'm going to be really picky in this first week, but I've gone back and forth here. So, I guess a very, very small lean as I've gotten closer to kickoff on Colorado.
Danny Burke with us here, Burke's Best Bets. And Danny, you say you're going to be picky here in college football. What are your thoughts on this next one? Is it something you're going to be betting on? We have Central Connecticut State. They're 32-point underdogs against Central Michigan. You going to be touching that one?
I can't say I'm going to be touching that one, Elijah. What are you feeling for that game? How are we thinking that one's going down? Are we laying the 30+ or what?
I will never bet on a team that I have never heard of before, and Central Connecticut State is firmly in the category of teams I've never heard of before. So I'm leaning Central Michigan there, but 32 is a lot of points.
Yeah, fair enough. I hear you. Maybe I'll have to go with Central Michigan as well, just based on that principle alone.
Danny, let's move to Saturday morning, as there's some decent games in Week 1, and it starts off with your 11 a.m. quote-unquote primetime spot, because that's what primetime is in college football now, 11 a.m. Georgia and Clemson. Georgia's a 13.5-point favorite. The total set at 48.5. Is there anything you like in this one? What might be the game of the week in college football?
Yeah, I kind of do like the fact that you're getting Georgia under 14 here at most outlets. So I certainly like Georgia in that regard. I do think Clemson's going to keep this one closer than a lot of the public probably perceives. And I know a lot of the narrative has been around Sweeney and whether or not his seat's getting warmer this year. So I think they will come out with a little bit of firepower. So you could potentially look at some first-half angle with Clemson. And, look, if you really do like Georgia, again, I think you're going to end up being safe with 13 in the hook pre-flop. But what I'm going to end up doing, and, again, it's not anything I haven't said before, but because I do think Clemson will come out a little bit hot and probably have something schemed up there. It's the first week. I'm going to wait to get that better number on Georgia. Clemson could get the ball first, or they make a stop on defense and put the first score up. They're a talented enough team, clearly, to do that. And I don't really think you have to put yourself in an uncomfortable situation, potentially, by just betting Georgia before the kickoff even happens. So I think there's a very, very good chance we're going to get a better number with the Bulldogs. Wait till that happens, and then let them capitalize once they get in that better spot. And you have a little bit less of a sweat once they pull away in the latter half of that matchup.
Danny Burke with us, BurksBeat.com, at Danny Burke5 on Twitter. Danny, any interest, any value here with West Virginia Saturday? They're at home. Penn State minus 8.5. The money line at 51.5. Should say the over/under at 51.5. So that's just a tough ball game. That's an absolutely tough ball game to open up with if you're Penn State.
Yeah, in this Penn State team, I get that the sights are set very high, as they always are for the Nittany Lions, but I still have some hesitation with the quarterback position there. So I'm not really getting too excited wanting to back Penn State here, even though it may seem like relatively a shorter line here with them. I think, as you mentioned, that total, Schmitty, based on what we're always expecting this defense to be, and because I think this offense is going to not be as dominant as we've seen in years past, and again, just not having the most confidence in the quarterback situation, and because it's week 1, you're always working through some of these kinks, and some things are going to be floppy, especially in out-of-conference play. I'd probably like the under in this game. That would be my top play to go with between these two squads. But again, nothing that I've done anything with that game officially. That would just be the way I'd lean. 51.5 definitely seems kind of high for a Penn State game this early on the road. So, yeah, I would look at the under between these two squads, Schmitty.
Danny, last game here before we get to Nebraska and UTEP. LSU-USC Sunday night. LSU's a 4-point favorite.
Yeah, I love that this is in a neutral location here in Vegas, and it looks like we're seeing some attention go toward USC. Now, I'm not going to be the biggest USC fan all year, but I actually do like them catching the points in this spot. I think their offense is going to be able to do enough damage against this LSU defense that, of course, was just horrid last year, and now we know the Tigers making some transitions offensively. No Jaden Daniels. Look, of course, the same is happening there at USC without Caleb Williams, but I think based on what USC did in the offseason with their coaching staff, the faith I have in Lincoln Riley to develop a quarterback immediately, and the neutral location with catching points over the key number of 3, yeah, I'm going to be siding with the Trojans in this game.
Nebraska minus 27.5. Maybe it's a little higher. Maybe it's dropped a little bit. But, Danny, you got a freshman quarterback, a killer defense, a new coach, and staff going in at UTEP here. What do you think about the Big Red?
Oh, man. Look, if I wasn't a diehard Nebraska fan like you guys, I would probably be laying 27 in the hook. But we've been hurt before in spots where we think the Big Red is going to go out there and dominate. That is just putting it lightly. But, look, I love what Matt Rhule said about not taking it easy against these, first few opponents, especially the ones who may seem inferior. And I get every coach is going to say that, but I really do think it's going to be a different mentality with this team and more competency, not only because of the quarterback situation, but because you get that extra year with Matt Rhule. So, yeah, I would recommend laying the points with Nebraska to anybody who does have the cojones to bet it. As a diehard fan, trying to avoid as much stress as possible, I'll probably stay away. If this total kicks up to over 50 or even at 50, I think I'd look at the under because, again, you have, yes, a five-star quarterback, but first year, a lot of expectation with this Nebraska team, and we know how good this defense is going to be. I think it could be a little bit slower game out of the gate. So I would definitely gravitate toward the under, and I do think Big Red is going to pull this one off in a big way.
Okay, so take the under, and 27.5 might be a little rich for a lot of people's blood. Real quick bonus, 15 seconds, A&M getting Notre Dame. And it's Trev's first ball game at A&M, -3 A&M, so it's a pick 'em pretty much. You like the Irish?
Man, this one's tough, Schmitty. I know the under's gotten to hit a bunch, and you have this, revenge factor, so to speak, with Leonard going against his former coach. I would want to say Texas A&M because growing up a Notre Dame fan, they always falter in these spots, but I like that angle, and I'm not so sold on A&M quite yet. So I think I'd actually look a little bit toward the Fighting Irish. I would have taken the under, but again, it's moved like 4 points. But I think this one's going to be a battle, lower scoring. Notre Dame's definitely keeping it close. I haven't done anything yet. We'll put it out there once I do, but I think Notre Dame has a good chance to win it.
There we go, Danny Burke, Burke's Best Bets. Daddy, we'll talk next week. Thanks much.
Sounds good, fellas. Enjoy the weekend.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
One final time here at the Single Barrel. Back here Saturday, 11:30 to 1:30. A sea of red for sure ahead of Nebraska UTEP. You're invited out this Saturday. Back here next Thursday at the Single Barrel, 4 to 6, 9th and P. Downtown Lincoln in the Graduate, Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel. Crew made his way in before the clock expired. Sexy Grinch is here. There is lots of fun being made in the stream, and always like and subscribe. Hail Varsity YouTube can watch the show that way. Hail Varsity Radio Twitter. PJ Fleck in his fancy capri pants. It was always the highlight of Big Ten Media Days. You had the shrimp cocktail, and you had Fleck in no socks and the short pants.
It's the style. It's in.
Well, if you can pull it off.
And he can, I'd say.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, PJ is always good about sitting down with us. We didn't stick around. Could have and should have. An extra day at Big Ten Media Days based on how the flight home went. I'm just ready for football, man.
Yeah.
I'm ready for football. We're back on the road tomorrow. We're at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill in Gretna.
And I should be able to
join
you
Gretna
tomorrow.
Pardon me?
I should be able to join you tomorrow, so that's always exciting.
Oh, you really? You've strong-armed and threatened people?
Yeah. Took a baseball bat to some kneecaps, and now we're good. I'm going to be up there.
Good. Because I missed you here. Hope the show was fun and entertaining and energetic for you watching at home or hearing.
I'm just glad that we didn't have any power outages with this line of storms coming through. Anything on top of that was just a cherry on top. It's gravy. We're on the air. We made it through a whole show. The storm didn't knock us off the air, so that's a win.
No, it is. And good stuff from Brandon Vogel. Check his segments out on the Hail Varsity podcast spot. Hail Varsity on Spotify, iTunes, Google Play. Catch Coach Barnett. Some pretty insightful stuff. His thoughts on Nebraska, UTEP, but of course Colorado and North Dakota State. They kick at 7. And what's he think of Prime in the week that's been with Dion? And awesome to hear Damon Benning. Good insight from him on Nebraska as we look at this season, where it could go right, where it could go wrong. We hovered around there, and I think an injury is something that could bridle Nebraska a little bit from maybe reaching their ceiling. The injury spot's obvious. They went through hell and back a year ago with injuries. Clausburn is good tomorrow. We pray. It is right before kickoff, so Claus will join us for the Friday forecast. And we want you to join us up at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill, the pizza kitchen location, a outdoor patio, fire pits. Not that you'll need them tomorrow, but it's going to be a really pleasant, sunny Friday to get you into your holiday weekend, your Husker football weekend. And we're so good to be here at the Single Barrel on Thursdays and on home game Saturdays. Elijah, you going to do some wings and watch some football? What's your plan?
We'll figure that out. I'm trying to figure. Can we get a steak and a beer bet slipped in here before Colorado-North Dakota State kicks off?
Sure. Steak and a beer.
What are you taking?
Minus 9.5. I'll take North Dakota State minus 9.5.
I'll take Colorado. I don't like doing
all right.
it. I'm going to.
You heard it here. Elijah's picking and cheering for Colorado.
Hey, no, it's an emotional hedge bet. It's a win-win for me.
KG wants tofu and white wine. KG, you have some fun with that. Thanks for checking us out. Back tomorrow at 4 on Hail Varsity, powered by Cornhead Lager.